this is Chris Morton with Wine and Real Estate TV here with another exciting, thrill-packed by the minute episode. Our guest today is Michael Martin from Movement Mortgage. Michael, thank you for your time today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Chris. I really appreciate being here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Today's topic is pre-approval. What it is, what it means for a buyer, actually what it means for a seller versus a simple, quick, what we call in the industry pre-qual letter or pre-qualification letter. Michael, please, if you would, explain the difference and what it exactly will mean to the folks out there.
Sure. So a quick and dirty example of the difference between a pre-qualification letter and a pre-approval, and by the way, they're interchanged a lot when they shouldn't be, is a pre-qualification letter is really something that a lender would write for a buyer, a prospective buyer that's going to be making an offer on a property. And they've really just had very basic conversation. They've asked them about their income, maybe asked what their credit score was. Sure. They may or may not have pulled a credit report. Really get an idea of what their assets might be, just really from over the phone.
Right.
And
so they're not even meeting with them in person at this point.
Many times never. Yeah. That's rarely happened.
Yeah.
But they're getting an idea of what they qualify for, and they're saying, okay, based on what you've told me, if this is all true, then you're qualified to purchase a home, or you're pre-qualified to purchase a home up to XYZ price. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, frankly, that really causes problems down the road.
Absolutely.
And a pre-approval, to contrast the two of them, is where we do significantly more work, where we've really had in-depth conversations about the goals of the client, understanding what their needs are from a budgeting standpoint. We gather documentation, lengthy documentation like tax returns and pay stubs and bank statements, those kinds of things. And then really what we should be doing, and what Movement does, and it's very important, is that we submit that to an underwriter, even without a contract, so that we actually have an underwriter make a decision on that file based on the information that we've given them. Wow. So we've got an approval, and then we can actually start clearing those conditions prior to even finding a home, so that ultimately my goal is that when you're out with a buyer, that the only conditions we have to worry about are subject to the property. So appraisal, homeowner's insurance, title insurance, and a contract.
And whether, and not in your world, but in our world, whether it's going to pass the inspection or not.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And so many times people will go out there with a pre-qualification letter, and they think they have something, and they fall in love with a house, and they don't really get down and deep and into the process with someone like yourself, and then they fall in love with the house, and then they come to find out they really can't afford it, or they're not really comfortable with the monthly payment, that sort of a thing. Speak to, again, how that really can reduce a lot of stress for people to go through that deep process on the front end.
Yeah, so when you hear about frustrations, if any of you guys have had a friend or relative or yourself that's had a big stressful situation, and you're cussing and screaming at a mortgage lender, most of the time it's because they either didn't ask you or you didn't supply the documentation. Generally, it's they didn't ask you for all the information. Right. The reality in the mortgage world today is we're still lending billions of dollars a month. In fact, the industry is. So there's plenty of money to be lent. It's really about dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And the problems and the stress that comes out is with the loan officers that really don't set proper expectations at the very beginning, right at the onset, to get the proper documentation. It's going to be needed anyway. That's one of the things I think we do a little bit better than most, is that we gather all of that and really stress to the client how important that is.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, what happens is we don't know to ask a buyer the questions based on the information they've given us until we've seen some documentation to go ask them more questions.
Of course.
And when that documentation comes a day or two or a week before closing, well, then it causes us to ask more questions. So what we try to do is gather all that up front.
Snowball effect.
Exactly.
When I am sitting down with a buyer before we even go out and look at property, I explain to them the importance of going through the process of talking with a mortgage professional on the front end. So many realtors don't do that, unfortunately, but it ends up where you have all of that stress, all of that confusion, all of that worry, and all that uncertainty later on in the process, when instead, to me, it's logical to do it the way you guys do it and can do it, where you give them you pre-approve them on a house that they haven't even looked at yet. I think that speaks so highly of how the whole process should work, and makes my job as a realtor so much easier.
Well, I'll say, it's kudos to you, and yeah, frankly, you're right. There are a lot of agents that aren't going through that process, and unfortunately, they don't realize that they're doing their client a disservice. Let's say their client comes to them with a pre-qualification letter from their friend who's a lender or a relative, or a friend of a friend, whoever it may be. The reality is, unless they've dug deep, they're making assumptions that they don't know anything about.
Right.
And frankly, the realtors that are requiring their clients to get deep and get really pre-approved are serving their clients better. So great job.
I would say tremendously so. And then for those folks out there that are thinking about selling their home, it's also a very valuable thing to have this conversation or to hear this conversation, because you're in this day and age, we're entertaining multiple offers. The market is very, very hot right now for sellers. If you've got a pre-approval letter for client A and a pre-qual letter from some company in Alaskan client B, buyer B, obviously buyer A is going to look a little stronger to you, and that's someone you should look at a little stronger.
Yeah, it's funny. I've actually had some listing agents here in the marketplace where they've gotten pre-approval letters from, let's call it, Quicken Loans, or one of those folks that come from the internet, such as Lending Tree or something like that.
Sure.
And they get these letters, and they've been in the business long enough to realize, and I'm sure you've done the same thing, Chris, that they're not willing to put their seller at that risk.
Right.
And frankly, maybe they have in the past, and it blew up.
Right.
So they've said, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I need you to speak with my lender. You don't have to use them, but you at least have to speak with them so that my lender knows that we can get this done. And again, it puts your seller in a significantly better position. Rather than taking that house off the market in a hot market, it just puts them in a better position.
Exactly right. Is there any other information about this that you want to share with the folks?
All I would really suggest, Chris, to you guys out there is when you're considering buying a house, really get a referral from somebody that you know and trust, and not just a family member that's used that lender before, but really a referral partner that works with these lenders regularly, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that really know how any lender can have one deal go well. But to do that time and time again, a referral partner like a real estate agent like Chris, or a financial planner, or a CPA, or those types of folks that work with folks over and over again are going to be able to provide great referral sources.
Wonderful. Again, Michael, thank you so much for your time today. It's now come to that segment of our show. We are called Wine and Real Estate TV, not just Real Estate TV.
Here.
That's exactly, you're a wise man. Wine is this segment of the show. I got a bottle of wine. You said, I always ask all my guests ahead of time what kind of wine you like. Michael said he liked red, so that narrowed it down.
Actually, but
wet and red. That narrows it down to about 42 trillion bottles of wine. So I took a stab and I found this bottle called Lennon from our friend Joe at Wine 101 that was on a previous episode. It is a blend from Washington State, Columbia Valley. It's 57% Merlot and 43% Syrah. I love they say on the label, it pairs best with any day of the week that ends in Y. And those are typically the days I like to drink wine.
No doubt about it.
So anyway, cheers to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for
Appreciate it. Absolutely.
Cheers.
Good stuff.
Excellent.
Tell them how they can find you, your contact information, website, all that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I've been a lender here in the Triangle for going at the end of this year will be 13 years. So you should be able to find me on the web, but my website is www.yournclender.com. So yournclender.com. My phone number, it's my mobile, 919-612-9978. Excuse me, 919-612-9978. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you again, Michael. And all other episodes of this web television show can be found at Wine and Real Estate TV. It's www.wineandre.com. Thanks again. This has been Chris Morton, your host, and appreciate your time. Cheers.
Cheers.